Welcome to the Savvy Radio Show with your host, Savvy Landlord. Up next is the best deal ever on Fridays. Check out all episodes on SavvyRadioShow.com.
What's up, Savvy investors? I'm excited that you tuned in because you tuned in on Best Deal Friday. I got one for you that I just locked up. Well, actually, I just locked it up, closed it. And it's an interesting creative deal, which I thought would never have happened, and I wanted to just inspire you today with this one. First of all, I want to give a shout out, thank out, whatever you want to say. You know, these rock stars, they point up to the cross or whatever. I want to give a point out to my boys, Augie Bylight and Thomas Morgan. They have been the creative real estate geniuses that have held my hand, helped me with documents, you name it. They answered my questions. So let me dive into this deal. This just happened. I just closed last week, so I'm pretty amped up. And I've been waiting a while to talk about this one. And anyway, Joe Mueller just interviewed me for his podcast up in Chicago, and I mentioned it right the day before I closed, and I just closed it. So let me break it off for you. First of all, I get a call from a lady. Now, this is a friend of mine that I knew, her son and I would just hang out. So you never know where you're going to get a deal. She's been a realtor for a relatively long time, and she is a realtor that's more of a retail realtor, not the type of a investor realtor. She knows that I'm in real estate, and I knew that she was in real estate, but we've never really crossed paths. Actually, this gal has brought me 3 deals in the last maybe 18 months. A flip I did in Mustang, and I helped another investor get into a commercial property. So let me give you some backstory. So this gal, friend of mine, she represents, and she's real close friends, almost like her mom, that was married to a real estate realtor that passed away, that gave them some assets. And those assets, she had a lot of assets. A lot of them were leveraged. A lot of them needed deferred maintenance. A lot of them needed landlord management. So the elderly lady, she's not really in real estate, so she has a friend, and her friend called me, and I was like, why didn't you take this listing? She's like, I just want to do my friend a favor. So I was like, okay, usually I ask who's going to get paid and who am I talking to. You want to know that up front, because you don't want to waste time messing with a realtor that doesn't have any vested interest in the situation. But I knew this gal. She's a friend of my friend, and I've grown up with her son, and we've just been homies since then. So long story short. So the first time the deal that she brought me was a commercial deal. It was a duplex with a commercial office, and I couldn't close it. I could have closed it, but it would have put too much pressure on me. And I actually assigned it to a friend of mine, and she is super stoked on that property. And then sometimes I wonder, man, I wish I would have kept that property. So that was way too long of an intro. So let's get down into it. So she calls me back a couple months later. She says, hey, her friend needs to sell this property. And I was like, okay, what is it? She says a duplex. I was like, okay, what's the address? So I looked the address up, and I go, what does she want? She wants $100,000 for it. And I was like, okay, tell me about this duplex. Well, I look it up on the county, and it's only valued at 96. So right there, I'm like, I can't get it appraised. In my back of my mind, most of the time, anytime I get a property, I try to do no money down deal. That's just at my stage of my life. This has been a fun roller coaster ride, and I try to do every deal no money down. So at 96 on the county, you're trying to get 100. In traditional bank funding, I'd have to put down 20. So that'd be 80. There's no way that I would do it. So I was like, man, I'm not really interested. And I don't know if that was a technique that I used or whatever, but I really was. So I was like, tell me about the property. It's on the northwest side of Oklahoma City. It's a hot area, kind of. And so, maybe I can get that bad boy to appraise at 125, but, still interested in the deal. And she goes into, okay, tell me about this duplex. Well, I'm not a big fan of multifamily. I am, but I'm not. I own some, but I can tell you why. One of the main reasons is the utilities, if they're split. Okay, that's one of my main reasons if I'm going to ever buy a multifamily. So I was like, well, tell me about it. She's like, well, there's a lady that's been living in one side of the unit for 30 years, for real. And I was like, okay. She pays $435. Her niece lives on the other side. She pays $200 a month. Okay, that's under rented. And then there's a unit in the back and they pay $200 a month. So it's really not a duplex. So I'm kind of juiced up now. Okay, so it's like a triplex. Duplex in the front, garage apartment in the back. That was my understanding. Well, that sounds all gravy. First of all, it's way under rented. And so I was like, man, my mind creative. I'm like, how can I do this deal? First of all, it's under rented. So I went and viewed the property. First of all, it was a regular residence that was converted into duplex. Problem number one, because it is not set up. It's on one water meter. It's set up on one electricity bill. And that's a nightmare. Someone's under rented. So you either have to, the older lady, I had compassion for her. I didn't want to raise her rent. And she's been there for 30 years. And the cool thing about the older lady to the right, she monitors the meter. So she pays the electricity bill and then bills the other people. I'm like, man, we can't get rid of that gal. And so I started digging into the property. There's some deferred maintenance on the property. Now, keep in mind, this is in the center of the city. It is almost an acre of land. I think it's 3/4 of an acre of land. And all the houses around it are double the value. So the next door house is worth $350,000. It's on a huge lot, and it's right by the major metropolitan area of the city, very busy area. But it's not like an up-and-coming area. It's just a very busy area of the city. So I'm still, man, I can't buy this deal. I don't want to get a loan on it. I don't know, as I'm viewing the property, there's some deferred maintenance, nothing major. But I know in a year, 24 months, I'm going to be putting money in this property, which, if I get it for $100,000, I was like, this ain't going to work. She mentioned casually, the next door neighbors want to buy it. Oh, they do? Really? And I kind of blew her off. She's like, yeah, we told them $150,000. I was like, okay, so you're trying to get 100, and and you told someone else 150. That kind of makes me a little bit nervous. Like, is this some kind of scam going on? Well, as I dig deeper into the deal, I kind of threw out 75,000 was the number, and of course, I knew it was worth 125. I knew, I backed out my numbers. If I needed, at this time I was focused on wholesaling it. I wasn't interested in the property because I didn't want to maintain the deferred maintenance, and it wasn't metered, and it would just be a problem. So one thing I meant to tell you too, this garage apartment in the back wasn't finished. It was a storage unit for some medical supply company, which was pretty amazing because it was a 2-car garage in the front and a garage in the back. It was a massive structure, but it was only yielding $200 a month, and I could raise that up, another 100, 150. So I'm digging in this deal, and it's just not looking good. I don't. First of all, I actually blasted it out to some investors for like 110, 125, anybody interested in this property, and I got no returns on the real estate investors. I mean, of course, most real estate investors, they look at the county and they kind of gauge. You could do some comps, but no one was knocking on my door saying, hey, I'll give you 110. So if I lock it up for 100. So I went back to my friend. I was like, listen, man, there's really nothing I can do on this deal. It needs a lot of work. And, I buy property at a discount. But as I was, this is a friend of mine. So it's always kind of a awkward situation because, I don't want to slap him in the face and say, this is a POS and it's only worth this much. That may work for some of these national companies. But locally, I got a relationship and I got a reputation, and I want to keep that rolling. And she keeps calling me. This is the third deal that a friend of mine has brought to me. And I've always wondered that she's a realtor. Why is she always bringing me these type of deals? A, she knows that I can close. And B, she knows that they may not sell, or there'll be a lot of work and effort to yield little money. So I'm honored to be a part of her list, and I try to treat her right. So I'm like, we're going back and forth, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know how I try to blast it out. I'm calling another friend of mine, another partner friend of mine. And finally I get down to the nitty gritty. I'm like, why does she want to sell this property? I mean, just to be honest and integrity with you, the goal is to own assets. She should just hold it. I mean, seriously, how much does she owe on it? And what, and how, she says she owes $75,000 on the property. That's what her loan is. It's like a HARP loan that's on there. And I was like, okay, well, just as, of course, I'm a landlord and an investor. I'm like, I got to give her some advice. I was like, well, keep the older lady in there, raise the rents and cash flow. You could probably make $500 a month off that deal. And 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to run into some major repair issues. But for now, live off the cash flow. No, she really wants to sell it. She has her dream house that she wants to buy. Okay. This gal is 70 years old and she just now found her dream home. Well, she owns a house that she can't sell. She's got some issues with some back money that she owes. She's debt free on her property that she owes now, lives in now, but she can't sell it because she has it overpriced. I'm like, well, you're her realtor. Why don't you drop the price? Like, well, blah, blah, blah. But she needs $25,000 to get into her dream crib. Oh, shucks. This is where my homies come in. You find out you want to be the solution to the situation. Some would say the problem. I was like, okay, so this gal, she needs $25,000. That's what she needs? Well, wait a minute. Maybe we can work this out. So, of course, I'm like, the savvy landlord, and everybody thinks, I know everything, but I really don't. I'm just playing out there in the game. I said, what if I just assume the loan and give her $25,000? Okay, she said, right at the gate. Okay, so they're really motivated. This gal really was so hot and horny on getting her dream home. She was willing to let me assume the loan. So they send me the loan docs and I look at it, and sure enough, right on the loan doc, it said assumable. So I'm like, dude, I'm about to lock this mother up. And so I call the bank and we find out more details on the assuming the loan, and you have to put 30% down. Okay. Well, that's real dumb. There's a $75,000 note. I've already committed verbally to this gal that I'm going to give her $25,000 cash, and then I got to put down another $30,000. I might as well just buy the property straight up, and get a $125,000 appraisal and borrow 75% on that. But that's for another episode. But so I was like, nah, I can't assume that loan. Again, I'm like, no, this is not going to work out. So then I was like, listen, this is my friend. Listen, I like you. I want to help you. I'm being genuine. Like, I genuinely want to help this older lady get in her dream home. I was like, get in your dream home. I was like, there's another way I can do it. I can take over the mortgage by subject to. And now this was a realtor I'm talking to. Then she's representing her friend who's 70, who's her AKA second mother. So I was like, what I'll do is I'll deed the mortgage into a trust, and then I'll start making the payments. And if you know anything about subject to, this goes down, and I'm going to blaze through this real fast and furious. Basically, you deed it into a trust. I become the minister of the trust, and I make the payments. And yes, the loan is still in her name, but she no longer has to pay. She can disappear. Well, we had to get this approved because she already had financing lined up on her dream crib that she's already got to accept a contract on, and she had to get a weird, unique loan. She got a business loan to get her dream property, but she needed $25,000. And the one caveat is that they needed to clear her name off of that loan. Oh, what? Let me say it slow. So she had a loan lined up, but she had her income to debt ratio was wrong with this duplex because she owed $75,000. She needed to wipe that off her credit, and that's why they were able to loan her money, because she just recently had a foreclosure or a bankruptcy or something. It's none of my business. I don't get into that. So you follow me here? So this is a little complicated deal. So Mr. Van Kellenberg here, I had to write a proposal to the bank explaining what a subject to was. Oh, I'm like, this ain't going to work. What bank is going to understand a subject to that I'm going to take over this lady's more? So sure enough, they signed off on it. They didn't sign off it like they approved. They said, okay, we'll still loan her the money. You give her the $25,000. You take over that property. I couldn't believe that they even said yes. Now, of course, this is a local bank. The older lady has done tons of business with them. Her husband was a real estate investor, done tons of business with that bank. They were actually doing her a courtesy loan of the relationship that they had, even though she had some kind of funkiness in her little credit history there. But she needed to drop these assets. So I get approval from there. Boom. Now I got it all the way down to the bam. I got the yes. I locked it up on a contract. Now I got to do a trust. And I got to pause. I've never done a subject to before. So I've almost had one. So I call my peoples out there, my gurus. I already give them a shout out. Augie Bylight and Thomas Morgan. They came in like gangbusters. These are the trust docs you need. This is what you need to do. Now I got these trust docs. Now they're for their market. So then I was like, okay, I got to find an attorney to do these trust docs for Oklahoma. So I find a local real estate investor, a local real estate investor, realtor, rare, and she's a realtor. I called her up. I was like, hey, let's do this deal together, 50-50. I think we can acquire this asset for $25,000. I think I can flip it to the next door neighbor for $150,000. If I can't fix it, they can't. They're trying to buy. They want to buy it, but they have assets that they can't sell. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I know I'm going fast because this is getting a long deal. So she's like, I'll help you. So she looked over the trust docs, made some adjustments, put the word Oklahoma on there. I forward those. I didn't know this. Take this note. You gotta have the closing company look at it. The closing attorney that issues title insurance. They want to see those docs. I was like, this ain't gonna work. What title attorney that does title insurance is gonna not like my trust docs? Sure enough, they passed. So my trust docs passed through the local real estate investor. Then from there, passed on to the title company attorney. I was like, this can't be happening. Now I'm like, I got the deal, got the docs, got a closing date. Now I got to pop off 25 G's. I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to tie up this deal. Holding costs. I know that in this situation, I'm the property manager. So with that real estate attorney investor, I was like, let's split this. She's like, down. So with closing costs, the lady had the net 25 G's. We showed up with 13,000. I showed up with 13,000. She showed up 30, and we closed it. Boom. Now I got the property. Everything's great. I'm managing the property. I get them in my system. And then the first thing I need to do, I need to raise the rent for the gal in the back. $200 a month for this monstrous add-on. It's not going to work because we got to make money. Because the mortgage. Oh, I forgot to mention this. The existing mortgage payment was $469. So, but again, this property, this asset probably could be yielding at least $1,200 to $1,500 a month off of the rent. But again, I got the $468 lady in the front to the right, and then I got the $200 Miss Nice niece, $200, and then the $200 in the back. So if you do the math, that's $486. So $468 minus that, this is a potential $400, $375 cash flow. So it still was good. But for me, I knew that deferred maintenance was coming, that the roof looked a little sketchy over the garage, So we closed the deal. I call the lady in the back. I'm like, look, your rent's going to go up. I have no leases on these people. They're month to month. There is a so-called fake lease for the niece that's all the way till February. All this stuff was revealed later. So I was already gangbusters to raise the rent because the girl's getting over on the duplex. She should be paying at least $500 a month. $200 is charity. So anyway, I tie this deal up. I get it all rented out, get all the information in. People are paying the rent. This is 1 month I hold the property. I get a text message from the gal in the back. Hey, I really don't want you to raise your rent. We are a new company. Medical, what? Supply, what? I was like, here we go. I'm like, this is not the property I want to be managing. So I was like, Steven, talking to myself, I was like, man, what am I going to do? The girl negotiates with me on the text message. She's like, I'll prepay 6 months in advance. I'm like, man, I'll take the $1,200. So I call my partner. I was like, hey, this gal in the back, she doesn't want me to raise the rent, but she'll pay 6 months up front. Hey, we'll take that $1,200. We'll put it in the account for any kind of repairs that we got coming up. So we got no money in the deal, except for our original 13. And I kept kicking myself. I was like, man, I need to knock on the next door neighbor. So during the closing process, the older lady that I bought it from, she handed me the girl's phone number. Her name was Erica. So I call Erica, like after I closed, the next day I called Erica. Phone number disconnected. I was like, this ain't working out. So I'm like, man, 2 weeks go by. I'm convicted. This is where you need to trust your spirit. I know this is whack when you're in a deal and you feel bad, you should probably walk away. Or you trust your spirit that it says, hey, you need to call somebody, or you need to go to this RIA meeting, or I need to do this podcast today. This may help somebody. I don't want to write this podcast. This is a long podcast, but I need to do this. So I did it anyway. So I was working with one of my students and he wanted to go driving for dollars. I'm like, I'm about it. I got to go to the north side. I got to knock on this girl's door and get her phone number, see if she's interested in buying the property. So I go up there, knock on the door. This is how not paying attention I am. I drive up there. This is a $350,000 house next to this house that I just acquired. And it's a Hispanic family. They come to the door. The guy that answers the door doesn't speak Spanish, doesn't speak English. And I'm like, hey, is there a girl named Erica here? He's like, yeah, hold on. 5 minutes later, it felt like, girl pops up. I was like, hey, I'm the owner. I just bought the property next door. And the lady's name said, I don't want to say the lady's name just to keep it privacy for her. And I was like, hey, are you interested in selling the property? She's like, yeah, maybe, kind of blew me off. I was like, okay, well, here's my phone number. So I wrote my name down on a legal pad, 405, my phone number. Might as well, and I might as well shut my phone number out there. I was like, 405-371-2299. If you got some deals, that's my cell phone. Don't blow me up. Don't put me on some bad thing. But anyway, so I give her my phone number, and then I get back in the truck, and I'm like, dude, I tell this student of mine, I'm like, hey, this is what's cracking. This is the deal. And I drive off, and I'm like, Dad, gummit, I didn't get that girl's number. I'm like, so within 3 or 4 hours later, no, the next day the girl calls, yeah, we want to buy it. She offers 105. I'm like, I don't want to say anything funky. I'm like, so I call she calls me and she offers me 105. She didn't text me this time. She calls me. I said, listen, gal, I got way more than 105. I know it says that on the county assessor, and you're pretty savvy that you looked up the county assessor that I bought it for 100. And I looked it up on the county. It says I bought it for 100 because I closed on it at 100. But I have more than 100 in it. So I just want to be clear. Oh, when I gave her my phone number, I told her I wanted to sell it for 159. And so I remember I was at her, knocked on her door. Here's my phone number. I'm selling the house next door. Oh, and I said a little sense of urgency. I'm fixing to list this thing. I want to give you first opportunity. And I was after I got that call from the back tenant, I was like, this ain't working. I'm going to list this deal. I got $12,000 locked up in it, and I'm trying to buy this other deal, and I'm going to close pretty shortly. And I'd rather use that money somewhere else to tie it up in some deal that may not happen. So I talked to my partner, and we figured that the comps were worth 125. That's what we figured that it was in the condition that it is. I know it's worth about 150 in my mind. So when I knocked on the door, I told the girl 159 because I knew she was Hispanic, and I knew she was going to beat me up. I didn't know she was going to hit me with a baseball bat straight out the gate, but I got to give her props. Did you know that my wife is half Hispanic? So if you know that, now you know I got love for Hispanics. So she came out the gate with a baseball bat, said 105. I saw you bought it for 100. I'm like, look, for 5,000, I didn't go through this 1 month of negotiating and drama just to get 5 G's, and I got to split it with another person. So we're back and forth. This goes on for the weekend. So I'm like, listen, the 140. So back and forth. She comes back with 110, back and forth. And I was like, man, I really need this money. I want my money out of this deal. I don't want to hold this property. It's a subject to this lady. I'm tied to her. She probably wants to be debt free, blah, 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 blah. And so we settled on, after a long weekend of text messages back and forth. I locked it up for 128. Boo boo. That's right, 128. And I was like, okay, I'm going to send you a contract. So I sent her a contract. She's like, I want to close Tuesday. I'm like, this is like Monday morning. I emailed her a contract for $128,000. We want to close Tuesday. Wait. Is that the right day? It was like 2 days later. Maybe it was Wednesday. No, it was Thursday. It was closed on Thursday. And I was like, wait a minute, don't you want title insurance? She's, no, we want a quick claim deed. I'm like, how do I get proof of funds? I'm like, this is going to be a waste of time. In my world, this girl's going to show up with $128,000. And sure enough, I call the attorney. I was like, we need to do a table closing on this situation. She's like, I'm like, is it cool? She's like, yeah, you got title insurance when you bought it. Shouldn't be a problem. Sure enough, we pulled up a warranty deed. The gal showed up with it. She texts me. She's like, who do you want to make the cashier's check out to? I said, what? I said, make it out to this. These two Hispanic folks showed up at my office at 1:00 with $128,000 cashier's check. I refunded the rents to her that I just collected. I mean, this just happened on the 1st of the month. I could not believe. And I flipped that deal for $128,000. Man, isn't that outrageous, amazing what you can do? I acquired the asset by subject to through some those negotiations took me 2 or 3 weeks. Probably I would have to go back and look on my email, but I did that deal. Probably took me 6 weeks to 2 months to get that deal to subject to. Then I got it subject to. Then I collected the rents, and then about 3 to 4 weeks later, I sold it for $128,000. I just say this to you that real estate is effing amazing. If you're not in real estate, there's something mentally wrong with you for real. I just, yes, I made money at a thin year. Yeah, I had to show up with $13,000. Yeah, I was scared through the whole process. But there's real estate mentors out there that are willing to help you and hold your hand. I hope that my friends would listen to this episode and be motivated, and that they blessed my family. That income that I made off of that deal, the $14,000 that I made, will fund another deal. Hopefully will be residual income. It's a wholesale deal that I sold. The Hispanic family, I took a picture of them. I took a picture of the check. They were so excited. And I was like, wow. I was like, guys, how'd you get up with this money? And they said, well, we just sold a property and we had this money and we've been saving. So this awesome Hispanic family in Oklahoma City owns like an acre and some change, this whole compound. And it's just exciting what you can do in real estate. So anyway, I hope that you can do that. If you want to be inspired, and that's just weird. I just feel like I need to say this. I mean, I wrote a book about deals like this, that how I started in 1999 and how I got to where I am today. And if you're lost in what you need to be doing, or you're like intrigued about what I just explained, it is possible. I started with no money, and here I am today on the radio show, trying to get you to recognize, trying to get you to wake up, trying to get you to read 10 minutes a day, trying to get off the couch, stop being lazy, and get out there and live your dream. Whatever you do, do something positive, make money, buy assets, and give it back to the less fortunate and help somebody else out. Again, you listen to the Savvy Radio Show. My name is Steven Van Kallenberg. I appreciate that you made it 28 minutes.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.